Good morning, campers. It's a glorious morning just outside of Skeggy. Lovely blue skies, nice and warm, fluffy clouds everywhere. I'm feeling a bit better. I've recharged my batteries after a very long week and a very long weekend. I actually had a decent night's sleep for a change. So I just wanted to do a little video called It's What I Do. No, Jim, I'm not nicking your name, it's safe. But it's just a little short video. Most of the things I put in my videos are what I do. Now, I know some of the things I do don't agree with the packet information. You know, I don't PP my pond at 1.7 parts per million for 12 hours like Kusuri say. And I wanted to have a little discussion as to why. Well, the first thing is I'm a fossil. I've been keeping fish since, the late 70s, early 80s. Started with my dad and had ponds ever since. Never been without a pond, ever, in my life. I've actually had fish since I was a toddler, but I wouldn't class that as me keeping fish. But from around the age of 10, I kind of got pretty involved. So that's in excess of 40 years. Now you might wonder why sometimes I don't follow the instructions on the packet. Well, it's fairly simple. Kusuri, you know, Kusuri medications, Kusuri being the Japanese word for medicine, were incorporated in 2001. The instructions on the back of a Kusuri packet didn't exist when I first started using potassium permanganate. In fact, I've been using potassium permanganate for over a decade before that company even existed. So I've been using potassium permanganate for longer than those instructions exist. So forgive me if I do what I've done for longer than that information has been available. I come from a time where people talked and people learnt from each other, and people had experimented with things, and that's where you got your dosage rates from. Now, if you look at the Kusuri dosage instructions, they say it's a dose for PP, was it 12 hours? Why do they do that? Let's look at the reasons why. Well, Kusuri have to accommodate the average fish keeper. So we'll say someone who's been fish keeping 6 months or a couple of years and doesn't understand the science behind it, and quite frankly doesn't want to know the science behind it. Whereas I'm a little bit different. I like to know the science behind it, and I like to learn the science behind it. Now, a lot of people know I pee my pond with sturgeon in. I never say to people, yeah, go for it, it's fine, you can do that. All I say is, well, I PP my pond with sturgeon in, and I've never lost a sturgeon using PP. But here is the reason why. Adam Julian has a very good YouTube channel. He PPs his pond with sturgeon in it. His sturgeon don't die. And funny enough, he uses about the same dosage rates as me. And that is because we understand what we're doing. We don't just read a packet, we actually know the background of how oxidizing agents work, how you combat the effects of oxidizing agents on your fish, and how you can work around these things. And the main reasoning is oxygen depletion in the water, and to get around that you add more aeration. Aeration doesn't actually oxygenate your water. What it does is it causes bubbles, which is increasing the surface area of the water, which increases gaseous exchange, if you want to get into the mechanics of the chemistry and the physics of it, but that's for another video. So when I say see people giving a blanket, you can't PP your pond with sturgeon in, I go, well, that's not entirely true. Yes, you can, because I've done it. And then I'll back it up with how I've done it. I don't just go, yes, you can. I don't want to be somebody that someone goes, well, you said I could PP my pond with sturgeon in. No, I said you could PP your pond with sturgeon in if you're running 200 litres of air a minute into it. Because that's how you stop your sturgeon keeling over. You make sure that there's more air than the PP can use up. Simple. It's called chemistry. So some people say, oh, that's dangerous. Well, no, because I'm not saying yes you can and leaving it at that. I'm telling them how it works and how to do it. And if they want to learn, then they can. You can PP your pond at whatever dosage rate you want. You can dose the pond at 4 parts per million. I've done it. And I've not killed my sturgeon. But I did have a koi, 75 centimetre koi, jump nearly 2 feet clear out of the water, land on the side of the pond and bounce back in. I went, no, 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 no. Neutralising it. Now, high dose of PP, very short duration, very effective. Low dose of PP, far, far, far safer, because you're not putting enough PP in to burn up all the oxygen in the pond, but you have to run it for a much, much longer period of time and keep topping it up. So this is why Kasuri put on the packet, dose it at this rate for 12 hours and keep topping it back up. Because to get the effect and putting a lower dose in, which is far safer for the koi keeper, is less likely to lose his fish, is why they do it. However, as I said, I've been doing this longer than Kasuri have been a company. I've been doing this longer than those instructions have been available. And I've done it that many times, I think I know what I'm doing by now. That doesn't mean to say I'm going to say to somebody, yeah, go and whack 4 grams of PP in your pond per million, you know, 4 parts per million, 4 grams per 1,000 litres in your pond, if you haven't got the experience and the equipment to do it. So I just wanted to do that. So it's what I do. It's not my advice to you. It's like Virkon. Everybody's saying Virkon. Why are they not saying Virkon Aquatic? Why are they not differentiating between Virkon Aquatic and Virkon S? That's why people are killing their fish. People are Virkoning their pond and they're picking up Virkon S, not Virkon Aquatic. And I've done my research on Virkon Aquatic. I've spoken to the manufacturer. In a previous video, I've put up the document from the manufacturer who have done all the research that I've never seen anybody put up before. I've never seen anyone put anything up from the manufacturer on the dosage rate for Virkon Aquatic, which is 1 tablet for 500 gallons. It's there in black and white from the manufacturer who spent tens of thousands of pounds on research. And yet someone on YouTube goes, oh no, that's wrong. That's wrong. It should be 1 tablet per 1,000 gallons. Well, that totally disagrees with the manufacturer. That totally disagrees with the distributor. It totally disagrees with the document that I have put up on YouTube. And as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that has ever published that document. It is 1 tablet for 500 gallons. You can argue with me as much as you like. That is from the manufacturer. They've done the research. Okay? So, it's what I do. It's not what I'm telling people to do. But when someone says this cannot be done, and I know it can, I will say, well, actually, it can be done. And here's how you can do it if you so choose to. Very simple. The instructions on the back of a packet are for the average fish keeper. They are to take into account the fact that people can't calculate pond volumes properly, don't sit by the side of the pond for 3 or 4 hours. They go off and make a cup of tea and then take a phone call and forget about it and then come back and horrible stuff's happened. They are to keep the company safe from being prosecuted for killing people's fish. It's also a little bit of sales tactic in it. If you say this 100 grams will treat 10,000 litres, or you say this 100 grams will treat 5,000 litres, which packet do you think you're going to sell more of? Obviously the one that treats more for the 100 grams. Oh, sorry. So, yeah. There's a bit of sales. There's a bit of, well, if we put a lower dose in, we won't get sued, we won't kill everyone's fish. So they built their own little safety blanket in, little safety net. But if you look at things like fluke treatment, there's lots of the current fluke treatment, lots of very, very experienced biologists and experts in the field saying what you need to do is full dose day 1, half dose day 2, half dose day 3, full dose day 5. It's becoming more and more and more prevalent. The reason for this is not that fluke have become resistant. Now, if you're old enough to remember a fluke treatment from 10-15 years ago, Prasi, the active ingredient, was at 2%. Now it's at 1%. The reason is people were killing their fish. They were overdosing their ponds. They had what I call big pond syndrome, where they had a 2,000 gallon pond and they were telling everyone it was a 5,000 gallon pond because they wanted to be the biggest pond on the block, and they actually started believing their own bullshit. So they started treating their ponds as if they were 5,000 gallons and killing all their fish. So if you actually do your research, properly do your research, then you'll realise why these things are the way they are. So my videos, when I say I'm doing this and I've got sturgeon in my pond and this is how I do it, it's not a recommendation. It's not advocating that, it's just what I do. And what I've done for a very long time. And what I intend to keep doing. But what I don't do is sit there and give half a piece of information. I don't sit there and say all manner of different things that can be confused. I'm very, very straight and very direct, and if you want to question me on it, by all means hit me up. I will talk the hind legs off a donkey on the reasons why and the science behind it and what's changed over the last 30 or 40 years, and I'll tell you why I do what I do in great detail. And that's why when I'm treating my pond, I very rarely put it up on YouTube, because I do things very, very differently to a lot of people. But that's through my own experience and what I know. Now, there's a lot of stuff going around that you can't use salt with FMG. Well, it depends which FMG you're using, whether it's formalin or formaldehyde. Bet you didn't know that one. You can use salt with one, you can't use salt with the other. I bet that's opened a couple of eyes, hasn't it? NT Labs FMG is different to Kasuri FMG. They're not the same. So, just saying FMG and you can't use salt with it, well, which FMG are you using? What are the actual active ingredients? Go and look it up. Go and do the research. Go and actually use Google properly as a research tool, and you'll find the information there. So, yeah, things aren't as black and white and cut and dried as you would think. I'm not going to say which one you can use salt with. I would still say don't use salt with FMG. However, you can You've got to have the right salt level. You can't be above a certain salt level, and you've got to have the right F, shall we say. But for people who don't do that level of research, who don't want to do that level of research, the rule of thumb is do not use salt with FMG. But the rules are for the average person who wants to walk up to their pond, chuck a treatment in on a Saturday, walk away from the pond, let it get on and do its thing, and are not that heavily into the science. So the dosages and the instructions are all what I would call a safe bet, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with it at all. It's like buying a filter when a filter says this will do a 24,000 litre pond. Yeah, if there's nothing in it, you chuck a few koi in it, you're probably looking near a 7,000. So the instructions on the tin are generally best case scenarios. Happens with filters. The reality is sometimes you have to look at a different way of doing it, and that is why so many people treat for flukes and they've still got flukes, because the treatments are a safe bet. You do the safe bet, you then buy the product again because it hasn't done it, and you do the safe bet again, and you rinse and repeat. As Einstein said, the only indicator of stupidity is doing the same thing time and time again and expecting a different result. Because you're doing a safe bet, it's not that the flukes are resistant, you're following the instructions to the letter. And the thing is, a fluke life cycle is dependent on temperature. They don't say treat after 3 days if your water's 24 degrees, or treat after 7 days if your water's 16 degrees. They just say treat after 5 days. Well, you're going to miss the eggs hatching then. So the instructions are there as a guidance and as a safe bet. However, you cannot cover every base with one set of instructions, and that is where your own curiosity and your own level of interest and your own desire to research and find out more comes into play. That's all I'm going to say. Everything I put in my videos, and this is my disclaimer, is what I do. It's not an instructional video on what you should do. And if someone rang me as a customer and said, I want some PP, follow the instructions on the packet, put loads of air on in your pond, as much air as you can put in there, simple. So I just wanted to put it out there. All my videos are, it's what I do, it's what I've learned over 30 odd years. It's not an instructional video. Ciao guys.